Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to do some kind of movements in the Google Cardboard VR applications. And this is where be a little bit challenges because if you're using Google Cardboard, there's no control and there's no keyboard. And if you want to move around and you need to think about what can we using just the head movement and the button. Remember, we just have a single button and how to do this in your Google Cardboard application. So I just wanted to show, here is the final scene. Okay, so I just click play to let you guys have some idea about this movement. So here's the wall. I just using a very simple the package download from the asset store, and you can build your wall just using this. So you don't need to spend lots of time to draw your model or you build anything from scratch. But the important thing here is not the wall, but how to move around. But remember, it's not just like a normal 3D game, because if you're using a Google Cardboard, you just have a head movement and you can look around, but you cannot move. And you only have one button. And if you set these buttons to walk, and you cannot turn. All right, so this is something that you need to take care. So here I just show you two important movement for Google VR. One is I want to using the head movement to control the player movement. Is I using the angle. All right, so you can look up and down, but if you look down for a certain degree and your character start to move. Okay, so if you look up again, it stop, and always is moving forward to the direction of your what you're looking at. Okay, so if you look here, if you look down, it's walking, and if you look up, it stop. All right, so this is one way that you can allow your player to move around your Google Cardboard 3D environment without using any keyboard and using any button, just using the head movement. But I check the angle of your head to decide whether move or stand still. Okay, this is one way that you can set to your VR game. The other thing is I can set some of the point within our game. For example, this cylinder is a special point, and when I click this cylinder, I will teleport to this location. Okay, so you can see now I just next to the cylinder. So you can set several points within your game world, and that the users can just teleport to that position. Okay, so if you can set a door, you can set a tree, you can set anything. When the user click this objects, you send the player to that position. So it's very simple. You just send your transform node or move the camera node to that position. But the walking is a little bit tricky, so I will show it step by step to show you how to do it. And also you will see there's a cube just moving around. There's a very basic animation here. I will also will tell you how to do this kind of animations, so you can using all the skill to create your first Google VR game. All right, so let's take a look for this setup. Okay, I just built everything here from a pack I get it from Asset Store. So remember, there's a lot of gamepad here you can download, so you don't need to draw anything from scratch. Some of the package need to charge for the money, but most of them are free. So feel free to download all this package here. Already very high quality sometime. Okay, so for me, I just go to this Asset Store tab, and I just search maybe a low poly. This is what I wanted is just a low poly. I don't want a very detailed fine 3D model. I just want a very simple no poly, especially good looking for games. So you will see there's a lot of the gamepad, people, animals, city, wire. I just using a tree here. Okay, vegetation. There's a lot of pad you can download. Some of them will charge you 10 bucks, 15 bucks, but you still can search something that is free. So you can revise. Okay, if you don't want it you can just let this free access, and that's just all the free pack you can download without charge anything. So this is great. Okay, so I just using this pad. Okay, it's called, I don't know, it's called the low poly simple layer. So after I install it, I will have a folder within my essence. So I can go inside to drag the element to our world to create your very simple 3D world here. So most of the time, if you download the package, you will find this is a folder called the Prefabs. Okay, so this is a reusable component, and remember, you just go to chat this, and you will see all this model, all this low poly, so you can drag to your wall to build it. Okay, so you can drag, okay, move around, and you can see that this is very very simple, just like you doing a Lego game. Just arrange different objects without you start from do anything from scratch that you need to do the modeling. Okay, so it's a great. Okay, if you're using this, I think it's really great to build your world. And of course, I can add some tree if you want it. Okay, so you can see anytime so you just build it the world. All right, so the important thing here is I want to add the movement. Okay, how to do the movements is a little bit tricky because I wanted to check is the angle of my player. So there's several things you need to do. Definitely, you need to get the rotation angle of your head movement, and then you need to check whether the movement or the angles within a certain range I will allow the people to walk. All right, so if you want to do this thing, all right, that means I need to walk around of this open world. The first thing is if I want to walk, okay, just like not just Google VR, and there's a one important component you need to add to your player. It's called a character controller. And this is a very simple to use. If you want just walk, jump or something, you don't need to write any script. You just need to add this character controller to your game objects. So for my game, because I'm using Google VR and my player is actually the node of the head movement. So you can see the main camera here is the player node, and I need to make sure my player has this character controller. So if you don't see this character controller, you just click here and search here, and you will find this character controller, and you just double click or drag to your inspector, and you will have all the defaults player movement script, and you don't need to write a single line of code. And next thing is I need to set is to calculate this of the angle. So of course you need to write some script for that. Okay, so today I just show you some of the basic script so you can use for do of your movement. So I just go back to the assets folder, and I put all the script inside this folder so you can check this out later. I already create all the script here. One of the script is called the movement or the move controller. It basically will tell the Unity how to move my player game objects around this world. So the key, if you already add this character controller, you already have some basic collision detection. So that means, if you have a ground, your character will stand on top of it. And if you are the tree and you cannot pass through. So you save you a lot of time. You don't need to do a lot of collision detection because it's already built in if you're using a character controller. So after you have this player, double check you have the character controller, and then you can create a C# script to get the camera movement, and then you base on this movement to decide whether you walk or stop. All right, so I show you the code here. Double click this move controller, and I just saved my previous code, and here is the code I need to do for my script. Okay, so it's not very complicated, just a few lines of code, but I just want to explain line by line so you know what happened. All right, so if you watch the previous class, I already create a response to some of the pointer exceed and pointer enter event. But for this script, it's not the event, it's actually the head movement. And every time if the head go to a certain rotation angle, I want to move the character forward. Okay, so this is what I need. So there's several things you need to understand is how to move the character forward and how to get the angle. Okay, so you need to get this angle. So the first thing is all the move forward is controlling by the character controller. So you need to using this character controller. So the first thing is you need to reference to this character controller. And if you look at my code here, I have a several thing at the very beginning. Okay, so all the thing is record is the class variable or parameter. And this is maybe the value. This is a one the data of the class that you want to change something. So I have a set of several things here is to control the walk speed. All right, so if you want to move the character forward, you need to control is the speed. How fast is your movement? So you can set this up. You can using a value. You can using variable, but I want to make it more flexible. So that means that the game developer can change the speed in Unity. So if you want the people to change any variable within your class, you also need to using the public access modifier. All right, and this variable will become editable within the Unity environment. So now for this movement controller, I have a set several things I need to do. Okay, so the first thing is I need to set the speed. Okay, so here the speed. And if you can look at this, how to define the speed variable within a class is, first, just like the functions, you have name and also the data type and also the access modifier. And if you have some default value, you just set equal to some default value. And the speed, I'm using a flow number here. Is the data type is a flow. That means you have a decimal point of decimal value. So if you want to set either integer, you can. But most of the time, if you look at most of the people's coding, they are using flow number to make sure the calculation is not just jump 1, 2, 3. It has some decimal value. So the value is a 3, but if you are using a flow number in Unity or C#, you can just type 3.0. That means you have a decimal value, even you just want to set 3, and you add a small f. Okay, that means this value is a flow number value assigned to this speed variable, and this variable can be editable or modified in Unity because I set the public. Okay, this is the speed. And other variable is important for this walk interaction is the toggle angle. Okay, so this is the angle. That means if you look up, all right, that means if you look up, you are 0 degree. If you look down until you look on the ground, it's 90 degree. So I just want to using this angle. If you look down 30 degree and want to walk. So this angle you can change. So I still set a variable for this, and you can modify later in Unity, but I set the default as 30 degree and I call it toggle angle. And I also need to check is whether I want to move or not. Okay, so there's a two status for a character. One is walking, one is standing. So I wanted to using one more variable to control this is using another special data type here is called a BOOL. It's a Boolean value. Boolean value just have a 2, true or false, 1 and 0. And I'm using this as a flag. And if this flag is on, just like you switch on a button, I will walk. If you turn off, stop. Okay, and this is just a flag or switch. All right, in most of the time in the game, we're using different switch to notify some certain event is happen. All right, similarly, your event trigger system, but it's controlling by myself. And remember, I need to using the head movement, and the head movement already mapped to your camera. So I also need to set is one transform node here. It is called a VR camera. So actually, I will allow you to set any camera to this class, and I will using this camera's rotation to calculate what whether I walk or stand. So for this class, basically is a 4 variable, and different variable have a different type. Some is flow number, one is a Boolean, and one is not just a simple flow and integer. It's called a transform data type. and all this for is a public. So you will see in Unity, if you go back to Unity, you will see Unity will provide the corresponding UI to let the game developer to edit all this for value. All right, so that's it. And one special variable here is the character controller, and this is all only execute within this class. So this time I will set this to private. So private means other game objects cannot modify, cannot touch this game controller. Okay, this game controller only editable within this class. Okay, for character controller is the important component to control whether the how to walk, jump, and run. So this character controller, I don't want other people to modify. Okay, it will base on this value to design how to work with this component. So this component is always set to private, and I still need a variable name for that. So I just put CC here. Okay, so that's the setup for your class. And the next thing is all this variable is just name, and the variable it do nothing. All right. So the first thing is you need to map the corresponding component. So within the start, okay, so now this is the first time using the start method or function. So the starts will be executed every time when the frame, okay, the first frame update. So remember we are doing game, and actually you just like animations will reflect the screen several times per second. It depends your computer power becomes or your setting within your Unity, but most of the game can support up to at least I think 60 frames per second. And if your game is more complicated, you will see some drop frame, but basically you can think that every second there's a several loop or update for your screen. And the start methods will be called before the first frame. Okay, so it only call and execute one. So most of the time we're using this start methods to do some initialization, for example, set up some default value, or you map your variable to a certain component. We will do this within the start method. So in our case, I just have one character controller I want to control. I want to call some of the method provided by this character controller to walk, jump, or do other kind of the movement for my player. So I need to do the mapping. Okay, it's to map the CCs to map the component of our player object. So in the start, I write a now of CC equal to get component. Okay, get components mean you get some of the component within the inspector. All right, so if you go back to the Unity, so where is the component? If you click the player, you will see this is the component. So at the very beginning, I just want to set my CC private variable is mapping to this character controller. So every time I'm using CC, I actually calling or access this component. Okay, so this is what I needed to do a initialization mapping to this CC variable. And the next thing is I need to do is to get the camera rotation, and I need to calculate whether it forward or rotate 30 degree. Okay, so this is what I wanted to check. So then I will use this VR camera and using a functions to get the angles, and it will returns to a 2D angle that is X and Y, and then I can get this angle to calculate whether it's larger than 30 degree. Okay, if it looks straight, it's 0. If it look down to the ground, it's 90. So the 30 is the boundary. If you look down after past 30, that means the angle is the larger or greater than this toggle angle, and it should be smaller than 90. I don't want it to look bad. Okay, it's just smaller than 90. So this is a if statement to check something for my game. Okay, so the VR camera is the camera node. Change this angle to 2D using this neural angles function, and you will change the rotation to degree so you can compare to this toggle angle, and it's not just greater than, but it should be smaller than 90 degree. Okay, so this is the if statement. So if this is true, all right, this is if it happened, I already have a flag here to signal the unity I want to move. Okay, so this is the move forward. I set it to true. And if not, I will using an else and set it to false. So this to switch value is to determine whether the user or the player need to walk or stop. Okay, so this is something that I can do. So after I set this flat, I will check this value, okay, to move forward, whether it's true or false. If it's true, I will call or ask the character controller to move forward. Okay, so this is the script or method provided by this character controller. So I just write another script here. It's called if move forward, and I will ask the CC to call a very simple move function. It's called simple move, and you just provide the direction and the speed. And what's the direction? The direction is the camera forward directions. Okay, what you look at is the direction. So you need to get this, okay, and the camera here is actually the camera of my VR camera. And here's a method here. In Unity, you can get the direction of this camera. And after you get these directions, you pass is the forward, okay, vector. And this is what the camera looking at. Okay, this is called a forward. And you get this directions vector and assigns to this forward variable. And this variable is just happen here. Just calculate every time, every frame is where you're looking at, and we get this forward to assign to this variable. And this variable will be used to set the movement. Okay, because if you want to using the character controller, you want to move your character, you need to provide the direction and the speed. All right, if you have a vectors for it, that means your direction is looking at and times the speed. And if you call this as a parameter pass to the simple move, and the character controller will move your character forward. Okay, so that's the code. Very simple. Okay, if you don't know, okay, you don't need to type, you can just open my Unity package, okay, or project file. You just copy my C# code to your project, and that you can have a very simple movement for your character. So you save this C# and go back to the Unity, and you will see, okay, there's several things you can do. First, you need to drag this C# to the player. Okay, the player is the actual thing you need to have the character controller. So I drag this to here, and after you drag here, you will see the Unity will check all the public variable and provide the corresponding UI here, so you can modify this value. So if you go back to the Visual Studio, you will notice within this class, I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 public variable here. The first variable is a transform node. So basically, you need to drag again objects or any objects ever transform, you can drag into this area. A toggles angled is a flow number, and the speed is a flow number, and the Boolean is yes or no, 1 or 2, 1 or 0, or true or false. It's called move forward. All these public unities will provide the corresponding UI for me. Okay, so for the VR camera, you can drag any game objects here. Toggle angle is a flow number, still have a task field, so you can modify. If you don't want a 30 degree, you want 40 degrees, you can modify this. The speed is 3, okay, and the Boolean is just a checkbox, yes or no. So if you check this, okay, that means walk. Okay, if it's empty or it's unchecked, it will stand still. All right, so now we already have this script put it here, and the game player, right, already have the character controller, and then you can test it, okay? But you need to drag your camera, okay, which camera you want to check the angle. In my sample, I just have one camera here, but if you have more complex game, you will have a multiple camera. You need to drag which camera you want to check, okay, the angle. Okay, for me, I just check this main camera. I would drag this main camera to the VR camera field here. Okay, so after that, everything setting, everything ready, and then you can play the game. And when you look down for a certain degree, for me now it's a 30, and you walk, and the direction is pointing, okay, where you look at. All right, so this is how you make your character move, even using a Google Cardboard, no keyboard, a single button, and you still can do this within your world. All right, so this is how you set these the movement. Okay, and in the next video I will show another kind of movement for a character is teleport, and I will also show you how to do this kind of animation. See you there.